friends who enjoy thoughtful conversations around AI, business, and execution. With that said, let's get into it. Perry and Angie, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Look who's at the house today. We got an Angie in the house. She's in to God bless her heart, work with Emma for a few days. So hopefully she makes it. You never know, when somebody goes to work for Emma, sometimes they just never come back. It's really strange. No, I hope everybody's doing well this morning. We're gonna kind of mix things up a little bit. Angie last night, we were sitting around the kitchen table and she was asking me some questions and we were telling some old stories and you know it, she said, you really should tell more of those stories on Morning Club. And I said, well, ask me about them. I don't remember them. Hell, I've gotten so many stories that have come and since gone that I don't remember most of this stuff anymore. So she had a list of some questions she asked some of you guys, you know just in an AMA setting, like, what would you want to know? And I guess some of you guys reached out and gave her some insight. My camera looks weird this morning. Gave her some insight. So, Angie, take it away.
Yes, so I just love listening to Perry's stories. I love listening to the things that he is sharing with us, the things that he's currently doing, researching, and evolving in his own businesses. And so I would like to just ask him a series of questions just so that we can get a flavor for what he's thinking about 2026 and beyond. And I know that most of you guys attended the predictions call that he did recently. And if you haven't done that, you can go back and watch that on his YouTube channel. But it was amazing. He covered so many predictions. But I wanted to ask Perry because I've already noticed that a lot of his predictions have already come true. So I would love to just kind of go through like what ones that were the ones that have gone come true and maybe some that you feel like are about to hit.
Yeah, I don't remember what most of them were, to be honest with you. I think the one that I've hit the most accurately was Bitcoin, because I think when I did the call, Bitcoin was 104,000, and I said Bitcoin would hit 67,000, and that was the floor to buy. And we've hit 67,000, and we've been wallowing there for about 2 weeks now. I don't buy a lot of Bitcoin. I got a little bit, but I don't buy a lot. So that was probably the most accurate numerical financial prediction. Layoffs are not really such a great prediction other than an inevitability. I read this morning that there have been, I think it's 58,000, 58 or 68,000 um, tech layoffs by the major tech companies in the first 6 weeks of the year. So we're probably going to see with software, software companies are dropping. I predicted that software companies would take a heater. Salesforce, those guys, they've all just really got hit hard. Software, the S&P software index is down 20% this year already, year to date. So it's down a ton. There were a few others. I don't remember what most of them were. If anybody's got one that they recall, I'm glad to go back and kind of give my logic why. I use AI tools to do a ton of research on those things. That took me that predictions call took me about 20 man hours to go through and really work. And certain things like I noticed, it's not necessarily proof, but I noticed that other people are saying kind of a lot of things that were on the prediction call. We talked about uh, friends as a service, I think was on the prediction call. And Gary Vee was talking yesterday about businesses that are launching 25 to $30 an hour for people to come walk with you. Just come take a walk with you. 25 to 30 bucks an hour. Um, that's a business now. We're all, seriously craving analog connection. I think trade shows are up again this year. I predicted franchises would be up. Franchising is already up over 200% in January and February of 2026. As people are laid off or feel like they're going to be laid off, a lot of people are buying franchises, which I think is a good thing. Um, the SBA released their numbers a couple of days ago that they did, I think it was 38,000 SBA loans last year, which was by far a huge record. 38,000 SBA acquisition loans last year. So I still feel firmly that buying a business with SBA money right now is probably the smartest thing anybody can do, as long as you know what kind of business you're buying. It's just the money's so freely available, and you can buy a business that's got cash flow right now. You know, um, I forget what all else we talked about, but those are the things that popped to the top of my head. And I think there's, if I had to make more predictions, I've since then, I haven't published any of these. I'm kind of afraid to publish them, but they're a little scary. I went back and worked my data backwards, and I was talking about 2026, and so now I have a whole set of predictions by 2030, and I can tell you that if I'm 25% right, um, life in 2030 will be practically unrecognizable from what it is today. It'll be that different. It'll literally be that different. Um, Robots will be in most houses. We won't be doing much of anything that we don't want to do. Um, you know, I call silver. That was one. I called silver when it was $40. And it ran like right away to over 100 and then came back down. I think it's in the 70s now. But yeah, I think robotics are going to be in every house. Um, the cost of a lot of goods are going to go down. Manufacturing is moving back to, for a lot of stuff, to near your home. So being able to, you know, buy some of your goods from your neighbor because the neighbor's got 3D printers or laser engravers or small manufacturing equipment in their garage, and they're making something, that you can buy from them locally. Um, I was showing, I don't have the photo of it. I wish I did. I was showing Angie last night. Someone sent me a little sourdough bread station, and it's like a little bitty house. It was built like a little house, but it was really just a curio cabinet. But it had bread in it. It had a thing to scan to pay for your bread with um, WhatsApp or Cash App or Vimeo. And what was really brilliant about it, it had a Ring doorbell attached to it. So they could watch you. They get a chime every time somebody walked up to the thing and looked at the bread. They could communicate with you through the Ring doorbell if they wanted from anywhere in the freaking world. And it was just sitting out in the middle. It was sitting on the edge of a parking lot. It was in a very affluent neighborhood, but it was sitting in a parking lot in a fairly affluent neighborhood where people could just walk up and buy their bread. And they did it kind of on honor system. Really brilliant idea. And like, I bake sourdough bread. Sourdough bread costs about 50 cents a loaf to bake. And I think they were selling it for $12 to $18 a loaf, depending on what was in it. So, I mean, I think you're going to see, you know, micro manufacturing be huge this year because people are going to need to sell things that sell. The truth is, a lot of the stuff, I'm looking at Ross, I see him at the top of my screen, but a lot of the stuff that Ross and I have sold over the years, we've been able to sell because we're exceptional at selling things, right? We've sold very hard to sell things because we were exceptional at selling things. And we made, multi-year careers of being exceptional at selling those things. Most of you aren't that exceptional at selling things because you haven't put 10 or 20 years in it. Doesn't mean you couldn't, but I mean, that's just the direction of life that we went. So for most people, selling bread or, tool holders or leather belts or whatever is a much more viable route. And physical good prices, I don't know if you're paying attention to physical good prices or not, but President Trump hasn't fixed inflation quite yet. He's almost there though. And it's just, things are really, really expensive, and they're making it viable again for local and regional manufacturers to actually do well. And I think you're going to see food processors, you're going to be buying, canned jars of tomatoes, canned tomatoes from the lady down the street, and that she maybe grew in her garden, or she bought the tomatoes from a local farmer instead of buying a can of tomatoes at the grocery store, because you couldn't compete with a can of tomatoes for $1.29, but you can compete with a can of tomatoes for $5, and they're like $4 and $5 a can. And bread is, if you go down the bread aisle at the grocery store, bread is what, $3, $4 a loaf, when mass-produced bread costs 15 or 20 cents a loaf to make. But what people don't understand, what's happened, and this creates huge opportunity for us. Corporations have bought up and monopolized certain markets. So when you go down the bread aisle at your grocery store tomorrow and you see, I don't know, 100 different brands and styles of bread, they all come from 4 companies. That's it. There's only 4 companies in America that mass produce supermarket bread. 4. And they just acquire everybody else. And it's kind of like going down the soda aisle. It's mainly Coca-Cola and Pepsi. They own all the brands. Or if you go down the soap aisle, Procter & Gamble owns all the soap. So, but what's happened is they're paying the producers of the raw materials, because they've gotten so huge. They pay the producers of the raw materials less and less, and they charge the consumer more and more. So the biggest, if you can look this up and watch some videos on it or whatever, read about it if you want, but look up the beef industry. So weirdly enough, cattle on the hoof prices have been precipitously going down in the United States, while beef prices have precipitously went up. And that's because they've made it so that the corporations, what they do, it's interesting. They'll go in and build these meat processing plants that cost $20 million, $30 million to build. They'll ask for rules that are arduous, that are difficult. They'll ask for certain required equipment to be used and things that they know are going to cost millions of dollars. And so that they keep competition out. To start a meat processing plant, you got to come up with $20 million day one. I mean, that's how to get in. And it's crazy. Do you know that most people would not believe this? It's illegal for a cattle farmer to slaughter a cow and sell you the beef. It's against the law. They can't do it. Isn't that crazy? They can slaughter a cow and eat it themselves. I think they can give the meat away, but I don't know if they can even do that. But they can't process it. It's illegal for them to process it. And like all the grain mills in America that process wheat into flour are all owned by, those giant corporations. So wheat prices haven't went up, but bread prices have went up 400%. So that's all this going into corporate stockpiles. But that's all bad, except that it gives you room, because you can buy a bad loaf of bread at the grocery store for $5, or you can buy a great loaf of sourdough bread from me for $8, and I make pretty good money. I can make pretty good money at $8. We've got a lady we're in talks with right now about filming some videos for us. Sorry, I had a sniffle. And she gets up every morning at 6 o'clock, and she stops in the middle and runs her kids to school and comes back. And by noon every day, she's baked 100 loaves of bread. So she's baked 100 loaves of sourdough. She gets about $12 a loaf. She distributes them around to different stores, and she gets about $12 a loaf. She wholesales some for $8 a loaf. End of the day, she makes $1,000 a day. She grosses $1,000 a day, every morning, and she's done with work by the time her kids get off the school bus at 3 o'clock, and she makes $1,000 a day. And it's like, just, I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, that's really neat. I mean, I've always thought about, because you've done so much, you've sold over $1 billion in revenue, and you've had lots of different businesses. You have currently lots of businesses, but if you went broke tomorrow, so if you went broke tomorrow, what would be your next step?
It depends on how broke is. You know, if I had, I've been broke, and I've been $3 million sub broke. When I got in trouble, I almost went to jail. I lost everything except $3 million worth of debt. Um, and I pulled out of that. For me personally, um, I've tried to, in my career, um, I'm sure you find plenty of people got bad things to say about me and good things to say about me, but most people have made money with me that I've worked with. So I'd be able to call a dozen people, and you know I'd make a deal somewhere. But if I didn't have that social network, um, if I were one of you guys and I got fired tomorrow from my job and I didn't know what else to do, um, if I had skills in AI and basic marketing skills and basic AI skills, I would probably go out and find myself a home services business to partner with. And I'd say, look, I'll run all the marketing, and I'll take 10 or 15% of the up that we grow the business by, and you keep the lion's share. And I might do that with 2 or 3 businesses. And a lot of these home services businesses now are doing, 100, 200, $300,000 a month. So to get 10 points off the top of one of those, um, is pretty good. It's pretty good money. Um, or, if I had any money at all, I might buy a little piece of manufacturing equipment like a filler or a laser engraver or 3D printer, and I'd start making something. I bought the new um, DJI Minnow camera the other day. It's a little action camera. It's the big competitor to GoPro, and everybody thinks now it's better than GoPro. I think probably it's better than GoPro, and but they don't have a lot of accessories for it yet. It's fairly new, and it has these two little magnetic. It's got a little magnetic clip in the bottom of it. Some guy on Amazon is 3D printing a little adapter that goes in the bottom of your DJI camera and makes it work with all your GoPro accessories. And it weighs about maybe 15 grams of plastic, which means it costs 10 cents to print. And they're $20 on Amazon. And I don't know how many he sold, but I think the thing has like 1,100 or 1,200 reviews. So my guess is he sold a lot. And I bought one, and I got it in the order, and it's literally like this big. It would print. You could put 20 of them on a 3D printer and print all 20 of them in probably 40 minutes. And I know that our beloved meat pump guy that's in the group, he 3D prints bases to hang power tools from in your garage. So stuff like that. I mean, I might make something that I could go to a craft show or a flea market or something and sell. I made a lot of money. I mean, we were talking last night. I learned to airbrush t-shirts. I was an airbrush artist in fairs and festivals, and I wasn't very good at it at first. When I first started, I could only do really about 3 designs. I could do a beach scene. I could do a name pretty good, and I could do these. It's a good story. I could do these 2 hearts with a rose through them. I taught myself that one because that was a big seller. And I remember being at the Hohenwald County Fair in Hohenwald, Tennessee, and it sounds like hole in the wall, which it kind of is, where it's a little bitty town. I made, I don't know, $20,000 in 4 days spraying t-shirts, knowing how to make 3 designs. And I remember I was broke when I got there, man. And this old boy walked up, and he's like, how much are them heart t-shirts? And I said, Oh, they're 40 bucks a shirt. I was getting back then. It was 100 years ago. And he's like, oh, ooh, all right, Tim. Well, thanks anyway. And I said, oh, so you don't really love her. To the girlfriend that was next to it. And she elbows him and they walk away. And about 5 minutes later, he comes back by and he's, oh, I guess we're going to get two of them. I got 80 bucks out of the poor guy. I don't feel great about that, but you can make money a lot of ways when you need to. I mean, my son's 26. He's been knocking doors, selling alarm systems and learned that business. And he came to me and said, man, I in 3 months, I've made like $10,000, but I made my, he's learning. He wasn't working full time, but he said, I made the guy I'm working for like 58 grand. And I want to start my own business. And what do you think I should do? He finally asked me, which I'm shocked. And I got him into the window cleaning business. So now he goes door to door, knocks doors to sell window cleaning. And he's selling about $1,000 worth of window cleaning a day. And he goes back, he'll do that in the afternoon, and then he cleans the windows in the morning. And now he's starting a commercial route early in the morning to do commercial buildings. So this kid's 26 years old. He'll probably do, 20,000 this month. And it's almost all profit. It's his own labor right now. He wants to get to where he can get to 30 or 35,000 to hire a helper to come behind him so he can sell more, because he could sell a lot more. He says he sells about 1 in 4 homes that answer the door. So he sells them, but I think that sometimes this group and other groups get too hung up in it's got to be a tech thing or it's got to be a digital thing. I think that if I had one prediction, and I don't know if I made it on the prediction call or not, I'd say that in 2026, a lot more businesses that are successful will be analog businesses. They won't be digital businesses. I mean, I think honestly, what I would do, knowing what I know skill wise, is I would just start knocking on doors and doing AI integration work. But I wouldn't talk about AI. I would talk about getting more leads, nurturing those leads, getting better reviews. I'd talk about the outcome. I wouldn't talk about AI. As soon as you use the word AI talking to somebody, they're instantly turned off. I don't know why, but they are. If you, Angie and I were talking about it earlier. If you talk about the outcome and what can happen if they use this stuff, if you can stop talking about the labor pains and show them the baby, so to speak, you know what I bet this is? No, that's not it either. Our focus is off today and we can't figure out why. I thought I was focusing on the microphone because the microphone's crystal clear. But yeah, I think, that's the easiest way today to make a lot of money. Is just go like Bill does with the websites or vibe coding websites. Bill's proven that's really good. But I mean, the real secret is do something. I think so many people go on calls, they join groups, they buy courses, and they're going to do something someday, and they never get started. And it's worse, honestly. It's way harder for the people who have a good job or already have an income or have a spouse that makes good money. I mean, they've got a certain comfort is the biggest enemy in the world of progress. I wrote a blog post on wrote a newsletter, blog post, whatever you want to call it, on Substack, my last one, and it was all about disgust. And honestly, we only do things for really 3 reasons that I can find. You're either there's a major life event that happens, a kid moves out, a divorce happens, somebody dies, there's some catalyst, in your life. A friend of yours all of a sudden figures something out and becomes wildly successful, and they're dumber than you. That's a big one. And or B, you sort of hit rock bottom and you are desperate and you don't know what you're going to do, and you say, okay, shit, I got to stop fucking around now and I got to go. Right. And that's basically Sam, my son, has a girl that he's liked for a really long time, and they're chatting again, and they're kind of boyfriend, girlfriend now. And she comes from a pretty well off family and is used to living a nicer lifestyle. And that was his thing. That was his life event that's motivated him. He wants to make a living so that he can be a good provider for this girl. Um, or last is disgust. And disgust is probably the most misunderstood, underused emotion in the world. But people will do things when they're finally disgusted, just so disgusted with what they have. I've got a friend, Donna Kretsch, I've known forever. And Donna's, she's a fitness coach and an advisor, and she owns a bunch of gyms and some other stuff. And Donna's real cool. And back when I weighed a lot more, when I was really heavy, when Trisha said, "Is there anything he doesn't eat?" Do you remember that, Trisha? I went to dinner at their house. The first time I went to dinner at their house, and they said, "Is anything you know? What do you like to eat?" And Trisha said, "Is there anything he doesn't eat?" I was about twice as big as I am now.
Because I don't want you to have allergies and everything.
Right. Yeah, that was why. She wasn't being a smartass. She would never do that. Um, anyway, um, uh, I called her a couple of times and I said, "Hey, Donna, I think I want to lose this weight. I'm trying to figure out something. Will you kind of help me?" And she said, "No, no, I can't." And she just wouldn't. And and it was funny. And I asked her twice. And finally one day I'm like, we're pretty good friends. And I know you're in this business. I've helped you with business stuff. I've done whatever. Why won't you help me? And she said, "You're not ready yet." She said, "There will be a point where the joy you get from eating terrible food, and a lot of it, will be the pain of the result of that will be greater than the joy you get from doing it. And when that happens, and you're disgusted with yourself for that, call me and I'll help you. But until then, there's no sense in it because you're not ready, you're not committed, you're not really going to do anything. You're just going to talk about it." And she was absolutely right. And there's a lot of people on these calls that are the same way. Business gives you something to talk about. It's a thing you're going to do someday. You're, planning. Um, planning releases the same endorphins in our brain as doing. But planning is awesome because planning has no risk. There's no risk in planning. There's risk in doing. When we do something, we could fail. And our brains are designed to try to protect us from that emotional pain of failure. So you're in this internal battle in your brain, you're in this internal battle in your brain between, the front of the brain trying to protect you against the back of the brain desires things. The front of the brain's trying to protect you. And there's this battle going on inside your skull all the time. And the thing that's I can't explain. I still don't know how to fix it in most people. You have to do the unnatural thing. You have to do the unnatural thing and take a risk that is not necessary to take. And that takes balls, right? You think about real quick, I'll give you and I know I'm probably burning up too much time per question, but something interesting to think about. California is, whether you like California or not, I know people everybody's about politics now, about California or fuck Texas or fuck California or fuck Florida. Everybody's mad at somebody, right? But if you look at California, it's arguably the wealthiest state in the country by a long shot, right? By a long shot. If it were a country, I think it would be the fifth wealthiest nation in the world. By the way, if the AI tool Claude were a country right now, it would have a GDP more than 150 other nations right now. Just FYI, isn't that crazy? but California would be number 5 in the world. And if you think about it, it makes sense because, 250, 300 years ago, people got on a boat from England and Europe, and they took a boat ride to America. And something like 25% of them died on the boat, right? And then they got here, and then a bunch more of them got killed by Indians and terrain and disease. But they were looking for opportunity. And that it was crazy because when those people that were the driven, that were the daring, left England, it wasn't very long until England was no longer the most powerful country in the world. It lost its power base, right? Then all those people came to America, right? And then after being here for a while, some of them said, well, the boat went back. And they said, what happened? They said, well, about 1 in 4 people died. And more people said, I want to go. Can you imagine today if you got on an airplane and went somewhere and 1 out of 4 times the airplane crashed? We'd all be such chicken shits. We wouldn't do anything, right? But they got back on the boat. And then after they all got here for a while, we ran a bunch of boats back and forth and we established some society. Somebody one day said, hey, I wonder what's on the other side. Let's go with a horse and a carriage 3,000 miles to see what's on the other side. And the first wagon trains went out, and I think the numbers were something like 70 or 80% of people died going across the Indian nations and the terrain and all that shit for 20 or 30% of them to make it to California. So the badassest of the badassest of the badasses landed in California. And look at how well that state's done compared to the other states. It's really crazy. New York had an advantage because it's the first place most people landed. But think about LA. How did California become so big? Right? It's crazy. So, yeah, I don't know how I got off that point, but anyway.
We were talking about the unnatural thing.
Yeah, you got to do the unnatural thing. And that's it. The unnatural thing was getting on that boat. The unnatural thing was getting in that wagon to go to California. You have to do an unnatural thing. Let me tell you guys, I don't mean to bust your bubble. There ain't no easy business. Business is warfare. If you think it's not, you're crazy. There are people out there. If you have something out there right now, there are people out there plotting to take it from you. They're plotting to defeat you. This is a warfare zone. If you want to play nice guy, go get a job at a nonprofit. Business ain't it. It might not be for you if you don't have the constitution for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. We'll close out this call with some of Perry's biggest business models in 2026, but I want to take a couple questions from some of you guys. So Andrea Rogers, if the goal is to build a SaaS that either hits 1 million, so annual revenue, recurring revenue, or becomes acquisition ready within 3 years, what decisions in the first 12 months matter the most?
The number one decision in any business, no matter what you're doing, is what market are you going to serve, right? Is what's the total addressable market size? Is there a reason for you to exist? And I know Andrea's a smart lady. I'm sure there is. Who wants to go start an online bookstore with me? Come on, let's go. Let's do it, right? Nobody's going to do that. They'd be, that's sheep to slaughter. But that being said, SaaS business is changing. It really is changing a lot. And I think that I predicted on the call that you were going to see this mass auto billing slaughter. And that's absolutely coming to pass. where you're seeing CFOs come in and just say, kill the card that all the software is on. And then we'll see what we actually are using and what we're really missing. And I do that every year. We kill the card that all our software is on every year so we can see, and every year we save thousands of dollars a month by doing it because there are just certain pieces of software we don't miss. And it was funny. It's a good exercise for all y'all if you have a lot of SaaS software. Rory Sutherland did a talk the other day, and he said, walk through your house and pick up everything in your house and ask yourself this question. If this broke, would I buy another one? And I think everybody should do that with SaaS. If I didn't have this, if this software if it canceled tomorrow, would I buy it again? And the answer in most cases, no. But I think one of the big things with software you got to watch out for, Andrea, and if you lean into this, I think you'll win. If you go against it, I think it'll be tougher, is single purchases. And I've never been a fan of those, right? I've always said, you want to sell SaaS as software as a service, monthly billings, annual billings, all that shit. 37 Signals guys who are really smart, they just launched a marketplace I think it's called Pay Once. And they're building alternative software applications to all the major software in the market. And you buy it one time. It's like $99 or $49 or $199. And then once a year or so, they come out with a new version. But that version upgrade is optional. It's kind of like, for those of us who are old enough to remember Windows when it came in shrink wrap, you'd buy the Windows disk, and then when it just got so old, you were tired of screwing with the old one, you'd buy the new one, and it's kind of like you'd buy hardware. I think you're going to see most software go back to that model, to where there's ownership of the software. They buy it, there's an investment in it, and it's a one-time investment, and they own that software, and they'll use it until they buy an upgrade or they change to something else. But it makes it harder to get to that MRR figure. And because of that, you're seeing valuations of software go down pretty heavily. But at the same time, Andrea, and I don't remember what your software does, but at the same time, you're seeing the valuation of tech-enabled services go up. So I think that one of the most overlooked models in software is to build software that can provide a service and then sell that service that uses your proprietary software to deliver it. I think and that's true with, like, I know that Angie's really into N8N now, MCPs, and there's so much that we can deliver now. I thought Reed Florin posted something yesterday, and I wish I had the graphic in front of me to pull up and show you guys. It was really fascinating. The allergies are horrible here. We have cedar fever right now, and the cedar's in full bloom, and it's just annihilating people. But he had a graph, so a square graph, and it said people think that AI is saturated, and about 20% of Americans use ChatGPT. About 20%. Of them, about 10% of that 20%, so about 2% of Americans have a paid account. Can you imagine that? 2% of Americans have a paid ChatGPT account. Of them, 10%, so about 0.02, have another paid account. So you look at us on this call, I'd say a lot of us probably have a Claude account, probably have a ChatGPT account, probably have a Notebook LM account, probably have a Gemini account, and we're bouncing around between, Ideogram and Nano Banana and Hicksfield and all these things that we use. We are in the gross minority. We're in the percentile of a percent, right? And most of you, including me, are still solving very small problems with this giant nuclear weapon that we have at our disposal. We're using it to solve very small problems. And your success will be predicated on two things. How big of a problem do you solve? And how much risk do you take? And if you don't take very much risk, you're not going to get very much reward. If you don't risk very much of your time, you don't risk very much of your money, you don't risk very much of your attention, you don't try a lot of things because you're afraid you're going to be embarrassed. The thing is, most of the things that you try today business-wise, they don't cost a lot of money. They really cost time, but they cost more time than they cost money. But we don't start because of internal humiliation. We're worried about disappointing ourselves even more than disappointing. And if the decision involves our spouse or friends or whatever, it's way harder still. So like for you to go do something that costs a couple $100 to see if it works or not, if you fail, you're the only person that knows that. And you would think that would make people be like, yeah, screw it, I'm going to go for it. It doesn't. People are terrified of that thing. And the longer you plan it, the more terrified you are. You're really better off. Most of the businesses that have made me a lot of money, I came up with the idea one day, executed on it the next day. And we were, you've got to embrace the chaos. I posted on Facebook yesterday a post about chaos, and everybody wants to plan every detail out, right? If you just embrace the chaos, that a startup is chaos. It's absolutely bedlam, right? And then there's a point there's a point when you generate revenue and you're starting to get your team, now you've got to get that chaos under control. But trying to get the chaos under control when you're still in the iteration stage and you haven't figured out most of the offer and you haven't figured out most of the delivery and you haven't figured out most of the tech stack, that chaos, you got to welcome that chaos. And I don't know how many of you, I know Ross has been, some of you, I don't know. If you've ever been in the midst of a hot startup, it's an absolute shit show. And it's the most fun you'll ever have with your clothes on. It is just a ball. Everybody's working their ass off, partying their ass off, high-fiving and crying, high-fiving 1 minute and crying the next. But every startup I've never known of a startup that somebody sat down and made such a detailed plan and they were right about everything that the startup just went off just as executed, which is what everybody wants. And, it's like Tucker Max told one of my ladies at a seminar once. She said, all I want you to do is write the foreword for my book. And Tucker didn't know her. And if you know Tucker, he's kind of a big asshole when he wants to be. And he says, well, lady, all I want's a bigger dick and a private island, but life's just full of disappointments, and, and it's kind of like that, right? You want to, everybody wants that sure thing, and there is no sure thing. And if you're betting on the sure thing, if it's a sure thing, the competition level is immense. Right? So if you wait until something is easy and you wait until, it's the demand's built, the market's built, the automations, the tools have gotten easy. Well, by that point, everybody's in that business. So now you're fighting for a tiny fraction. But if you're willing to accept the chaos and do the thing that nobody's doing, winner, winner, chicken dinner, or not. And guess what? If you lose, you lose. It ain't going to kill you. I almost went to jail 18 years ago, I guess. I was selling vitamins in Tennessee. don't do anything, by the way, in Tennessee. If you're from Tennessee, I'm sorry, you should move. But there are certain states that are very restrictive about business. I don't know if you watched this kid, this diesel kid in Tennessee or not, that bought 2 cars in Montana, and they've put him in jail twice about it in the state of Tennessee. He can't wait to get done so he can move out of the state. And he's a multimillionaire YouTuber, bringing a lot of money and attention to the state, and they've just screwed him around. But anyway, but the what was the point of that?
You were talking about Tennessee and starting supplements, and you failed. And
it didn't kill me. I guess that was my point. I mean, I went to jail. I was on TV in front of everybody. My reputation was shot. My money was all gone. I went from living in a 11,000 foot house and owning 7 cars to driving my assistant's car, living in my sister's spare bedroom in one night, and going from having, $8 million in cash and another $4 or $5 million in real estate, and another probably $8 million, $10 million in assets, to being $3 million upside down. And guess what? It didn't kill me. If you risk everything you got and it doesn't work and you file bankruptcy, guess what? It won't kill you. And you're going to learn. I know that was a heavy thing to say and terrified the snot out of a bunch of you, but most of you aren't taking risks that are that big. The thing to do to get started, if you're still having a hard time getting started, is do something that costs you nothing or almost nothing. Find out if there's dogs to eat this thing. I mean, Angie is making these little craft suitcase things for travel. And she found that, like, she would make them and give them as gifts when people were going on trips and things, and they loved them. And people started asking to buy them. Well, if somebody's asking to buy your thing, you need to pay attention to that. That's important, because everybody will tell you your business is oh, that's such a good idea. That's such a good idea. That's such a good idea. Until you ask them to reach for their wallet. And they're like, well, yeah, it's probably just, my buddy, Carl White calls it, they got they're kangaroo buyers. They go with their paws are out like this, and they put free stuff in their pouch like this. But when it's time to reach for their wallet, they can't get to it, right? And it's true. So find out if somebody will buy something from you. If you write an offer, I don't know if you all seen the offer that's gone out in the last few days from me, the CEO offer that's written as a Google Doc. I mean, write your offer as a Google Doc and send it to 10 people. See if somebody says yes and gives you any money for it. That's going to take you 15 minutes of your life. And if nobody's willing to give you money for it, forget it and go to the next thing. Thanks. Until you find something somebody is willing to give you some money for. Oh my gosh, Elvis is trying to get into the picture here.
Well, we're right at the top of the hour. We have about 9 minutes left. So let's do a rapid fire business models in 2026. Perry.
Yeah, number one, if you ask any GPT, I don't care which one you watch, what are the biggest business model? What's the biggest business to be in that has the most demand? And I'm always looking for demand. Where is there demand? I don't want to create demand. That has the biggest demand 2026. It's tech integration. It's number one by a long shot. If you don't ask me, ask any GPT. Being a tech integrator is the number one business to be in 2026. When you realize that globally, there are 376 million businesses, there's about 200 million of them that are, doing substantial money. That 200 million businesses worldwide, they're all going to have AI tech integration. Google right now is, if you go to Google right now on your phone and type plumber near me, you're going to see something really new and interesting. There's a button there that says get competitive bids. So instead of even searching, you can hit that button, tell Google what you're looking for, and it'll start calling providers to get competitive bids. Do you think they're using humans to call those providers? No, they're using voice AI agent. Guess who a voice AI agent communicates with better than anybody else? Another voice AI agent. So what's going to happen, these small businesses are starting to start getting calls If they don't answer the call, they lose the business and Google moves them down the ranking. If they do answer the call and they can't communicate effectively with the robot, guess what? Google moves them down the ranking. So the businesses that are going to get the lion's share of the business, according to, I think it's McKinsey, says 34% of all commerce will be done by voice AI agents by the end of 2026. 34%. That's a third of everything that's bought will be bought through a voice AI agent. That's freaking heavy, right? But so they got to have them. They don't have lead nurturing. And these franchises that are coming in, all a franchise is doing now, most of them for home services, is just giving them 4 things. And we teach the tech stack people this: lead generation, lead nurturing, 24-hour sales bot, and reputation management. And the franchises do that well. That's the only 4 things they really do, but they're killing the little guys. They're just murdering them. And the tech systems that drive the leads want to talk to more tech systems. And the robots like talking to each other better than they like talking to humans. The second thing is definitely low risk e-commerce. This is, with the ruling yesterday from Supreme Court, which that ain't over yet, but it's kind of over, whether they want to saber rattle or not. If Trump makes another tariff, they're just going to collect a bunch of money they're going to have to give back again if Supreme Court rules against him again on the new tariff, which they might. But so I think drop shipping is back in play. Importing is back in play. But really the play is customized goods made in your home. So buy a thing and customize it for people. Very long tail. You can fill products into bottles, boxes, and jars. That's an easy way to do it. You can engrave things. You can 3D print things. You can leather craft. You can wood craft. Making things that are custom made for people and tangible, I think, are huge. Drop servicing is still big, man. Either using software you've created or hiring talent and marking that service up and having other talent provide it. I can't count on both hands the people that I know making $1 million a month doing this. I know a lot of them. There's a lot of them that don't do anything. They sell it. And learning to communicate and sell these things and understanding to sell the outcome is probably the biggest skill to learn this year. SaaS software, if you're doing one-off, I think still has a lot of legs to it because you can develop so quickly. Fractional anythings. Fractional is going to be really big. As companies get, as the roles that you actually have to have, CFOs, CTOs, those roles, as those roles become the only roles you really need, and the bots are doing most of the grunt work, those salaries are going to go way, way, way up. And most small businesses can't afford them. So they'll hire fractional. So they can't buy a CFO for $250,000 a year. So they'll hire a fractional one for $50,000. And that fractional CFO will take on 8 clients and make $400,000 a year instead of $250,000. And that whole thing is going to be huge. I mean, there's just no way that it can't be. Business buying and selling. Silver tsunamis here. 60% of businesses in America are owned by people over 50 years old. Like 55% of them are owned by people over 60. And the government's just throwing money at you to go buy those businesses. And you're just dumb if you don't do it. Home services and transportation. Get into something home service. I mean, there's a lot of unskilled home service. There's a lady in Ignite. I can't recall her name right now. She teaches people how to start remote maid services where you can operate a maid service in a town you don't even live in. She does all the hiring by Zoom. She sends them out their uniforms. She books them. remotely with the online leads and makes 30% nets on a lot of those businesses. Um, transportation. If you've got a van or a box truck right now, you can make $100 to $150 an hour running around oversized packages for people. Just, I mean, it's $1,000 a day. It's shocking how many ways there are to make between $500 and $1,000 a day. But everybody's sitting around trying to figure out how they're going to skim the system to make $1 million, you know, while going broke, right? And that's really unfortunate. And weirdly enough, the expert author speaker market is still good if you're cut out for it. But you got to really be cut out for it, and it's a lot of work. Because today, to do well with that, you've got to have a YouTube channel and a podcast and a book and you've got to really be hitting that. You got to go speak on stage. You got to be out there. And if you're not that person, and sometimes you got to be honest with yourself, right? Some people just don't have that. They don't have the thing to get in front of 1,000 people and talk. They just don't have it. Nothing wrong with that. Partner with somebody that does. Steve Jobs didn't know shit about computers. Steve Wozniak knew everything about computers. But Steve Jobs knew how to sell. He was a front man. And he understood design and aesthetics, and he understood sales. He didn't need to understand computing. There'll always be people that understand computing. If you know how to sell trains, there'll always be somebody who knows how to build a train. If you know how to sell yachts, there'll always be people that know how to build a yacht. But with learning to sell something, I told my son, this is the biggest skill in the world to learn is this right here. That's it. If you're willing to knock on doors, and I highly encourage you, go out and sell something where you knock on some doors. Knock on 100 doors a day and do that for 3 months. And then go start your business. You'll be a lot more successful. All right. We did an hour even.
We did.
All right.
Let's close out with this one final thing. It's very easy. What is one AI move that this audience should implement before tomorrow morning?
Pick your pony. I mean, I use AI to think a lot more than I use it to do. But go tell it, go pick the AI choice and say, hey, this is me. This is all my experience. This is what I enjoy doing. One of the things that I've heard, two things I've heard people say, what did you love doing when you were a kid? And what do people call you for help with? Like, what do people, like Angie, people would call her when they were getting married or having a party or going on a trip. They wanted, oh, I need wedding favors, or I need this, or I need that. If they're calling you for that shit, that might be your calling, right? And stop talking to yourself. This is something that hit me the other day. I watched this. It was just a little clip. And of all people, it was Bruce Lee. And he said, don't talk negatively about yourself, not even when you're joking. Don't do it in any way. Because words cast spells on people. He said, and this fucked me up. He said, that's why they call it spelling. Words cast spells. Isn't that crazy? So I can cast a spell on you to encourage you, or I can be negative toward you. You can be negative, but we tend to be the hardest on ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been great. I hope you guys got a lot of insight out of this. We have lots more questions that we'll be covering week by week by week. And I'm telling you, this man sees around corners and he knows what's coming. And if we listen to him, he's a great mentor. We're going to all win. So
I hope so. Or we're all going down the same hole. I'm not sure which.